millions of years, there's got to be something out there somewhere. I mean, I always say if there is anyone out there, they're of a higher intelligence than us, we humans here right now. So why not? Is there anyone out there?
I mean, this is the question. And this is the question I get asked nearly every single show. I do. And every single talk I do I believe that there's other life out there? And of course I do, because statistically there has to be. Do you know they found about 9,000 planets around 3,600, 3,800 stars within 100 light years of the Earth?
No, but I do now.
So that's within 100 light years. Our Milky Way galaxy is 100,000 light years across. There are billions and billions of stars, and there are billions and billions of galaxies. So statistically, it would be rather arrogant of us to think we're the only life forms out there.
Yeah, I
But
often.
Arthur C. Clarke said something. Arthur C. Clarke said something interesting. He says, if the answer to that question is there other life? If it's yes, that's scary. But if the answer is no, and we're the only life, that's even more scary. Think about it.
I always say there's a higher intelligence out there somewhere. There's got to be.
Whatever you want. Yeah. I mean, there could be life in our solar system.
Well,
not life like you and me, not carbon-based life like us, but there could be. They're sending. There's a mission on its way to Jupiter's moons. There's America sending a mission later this year to Titan. So Jupiter's moons, Europa, Titan's moons, Saturn's moons, Titan and Enceladus, have got liquid water under their surface, liquid H2O, and
really?
bacteria life could be there. We talked about comets earlier.
Yes.
One of the ways that they believe life and water came to the Earth is through comets.
Okay.
Hitting the Earth right back in the beginning,
Okay.
bombarding us. Venus and Mars had water at some stage. Mars has still got water ice under its surface.
Water
the little
and
InSight
ice.
lander, when it landed, there was actually ice underneath where it landed. The retro rockets blew away the surface where it landed, and you could see ice for a couple of days.
Wow.
Before it went into the atmosphere.
Wow.
So if there's water, there's a possibility of life. Can I tell you about my favorite critter, my favorite extremophile on Earth?
Yeah, go for it.
You know what an extremophile is?
No, I have no idea.
So an extremophile is a life form that can live under the most extreme of conditions, like cockroaches. You know about cockroaches and nuclear wars and chopping the heads off, and they can live for 14 days. They're an extremophile. They're also gross, yes.
That's disgusting.
Year 7 love it. Year 7 kids love to know that you can a cockroach can live without a head for 14 days, and they can survive nuclear bombs.
Really?
But there's another critter. But so you've got creatures that can live in Antarctic ice. They can live in the vents of those hot water systems. They can live in volcano vents. They can live in those vents deep in the ocean. You know, we have all forms of extremophile. But my favorite one is a thing called tardigrades. Do you know what a tardigrade is? A moss piglet, a water bear.
A what? A water bear.
A water bear.
What's a
water? Do you remember we'll go to something similar. Do you remember sea monkeys when you were a kid?
Yes.
You put them in water and they'd come to life, and you'd then shine your light and they'd follow your light, and then you'd forget about them and they'd all dehydrate again. What you didn't realize, if you put water back in them, they'd come back to life. And you probably threw them down the toilet or somewhere gross. But so tardigrades are very similar to those, but they're microscopic creatures that can live in the most ridiculously inhospitable places on Earth. And they can survive almost anything. They've been taken to the International Space Station and put on the surface of the space station outside, exposed to the sun's radiation up there without the protection of the Earth's atmosphere. They've survived, been able to come back. They need water. They can live thousands of years without water. Okay? So they can survive nuclear bombs, like they can survive they can live where there's been nuclear exposure. They can live in the most insanest things. But there should be a Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Tardigrades, like you have a Royal Protection Society of Prevention of Animals, because do you know what they did to these poor tardigrades? They got some tardigrades and they put them inside a bullet and they shot them at a concrete wall.
And they
to
still
see if they could survive. And and they could still come back to life and they could still reproduce. And the reason they did that is, remember go back to the beginning of the conversation, I said one of the ways that life could have come to Earth was on an asteroid or a comet hitting the Earth that millions of years ago, and or billions of years ago. And these tardigrades could have survived that impact. That's what the test of shooting them out of the gun was, to see if they could have survived the equivalent impact of a meteor, of an asteroid impact on Earth.
So what benefit are they to us, these tardigrades?
Well, they're very good to look at under a microscope. They're everywhere. You go out after, if you've got a microscope or an attachment on your phone that you can use as a microscope, you can go and get them off bits of moss or stuff after it's rained and look at them. They're little tiny things and they look like they're cute. They do. You can see why they're called water bears or moss piglets. They're really cute. They're called moss piglets because you often find them in moss. And they look a little bit like piglets, I guess.
But
so
what
they're
use
just
are they?
interesting. They're great for kids. Well, they're there and they're an example. And, there are actually tardigrades on the moon. So prior to COVID, the Israel Space Agency sent a spacecraft to the moon. And it was supposed to do a nice soft landing, but it crashed. It did a hard landing. In the middle of COVID, they put out a press release saying, oh, by the way, against all the rules. No, they didn't say against all the rules. They just said, by the way, there were tardigrades on that spacecraft. So there are tardigrades on the moon.
Oh my
So
God.
we needed some rain on the moon, and they could come to life. I guess what I'm saying is about life. When we talk, going back to the original question, is there anybody out there? Is things like tardigrades could be anywhere. We've sent spacecraft that are out at the edge of the solar system, the Voyagers, the Pioneers. We've sent Mariner aircraft. We've sent spacecraft crashed into Mercury. Russia landed spacecraft and on Venus. Obviously, we left lots of litter on the moon. Mars is totally littered with spacecraft from all around the world, all different countries that have crashed or left their stuff on Mars. We've crash landed spacecraft into to Saturn and landed a craft on Titan. So the reason I'm saying this is we could be feeding the solar system, let alone the rest of the universe, with germs from Earth, because you know about anaerobic bacteria?
No.
Anaerobic bacteria that don't need air. They don't need oxygen to live. So in 1969, they went to the moon. We are accepting that this is a fact. We're not going to go into moon hoaxes. They took a box about the size of a stainless steel box that was about the size of a shoe box. It was supposed to be all sterile. It had a seismometer in it to measure information on moonquakes. And in 1972, Apollo 17 brought it back to Earth, put it on the shelf for a while, then they opened it up. And inside, all this anaerobic bacteria had grown. Somebody hadn't washed their hands properly.
Mm.
So the bacteria had grown on the moon. So when you think about how we've sent all these spacecraft all the way throughout our solar system, who knows what we've got there? And
We've
think about a certain
infected them.
person's car. And I've got another bit for you. Let's go into the future. You're a space archaeologist now. It's it's a few thousand years in the future, right? And we're traveling out there. And in the midst of your traveling, because we don't have any records of the 2020s, because everything's stored in the cloud, and the cloud's gone away because there's been a massive solar storm or a nuclear or whatever, and we've wiped out all our information. We don't have any information from this day and age, right? Because everything's in the cloud. It's not written down on paper anymore, right?
Shame. It needs
And
to be.
you're out there in space. You're out there somewhere at the edge of our solar system, and you find a red car stuck in a rock, crashed in a rock. What do you think?
How the hell did it get there?
Well, exactly. Of course, obviously, Elon Musk sent his Tesla into space a few years ago, and it's drifting out there somewhere.
Are you serious? Is it really?
I'm serious. True. Google it.
He's got a Tesla floating around in the universe.
He sent one off on one of his spacecraft and sent it off into space. Yep.
So it's traveling.
You can even track it. You can
And-
even track it where it is, just like you can track where spacecraft are.
And he's probably got something in it so that he can track all the movement and the motion and what it sees.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows that bit of it? But yeah. But I'm sort of saying, so you're a space archaeologist 10,000 years in the future. This is like what would be sci-fi.
Oh yes.
50 years ago. But if you think about sci-fi 50 years ago, you think of Heinlein, Clarke, and all of those guys who wrote the early science fiction, Isaac Asimov. How much of it is our reality today? We crack up about the universal translators from Star Trek, where they tap it and they could talk to anybody. Well, my mobile phone can translate using Babbel or something else. Google Translate can translate whatever you're saying to me if you were speaking in a different language.
It can.
Think about this thing on my wrist. Think about the thing on my wrist here.
Yeah.
Think of
Yep.
I make phone calls on it.
Yep. Yep.
Arthur C. Clarke was the first person to come up with the idea of what is an artificial satellite in space, and it became reality. Yeah.
The mind
War of the
boggles.
World.
But
War of the Worlds, which had people believing when they did the broadcast on Halloween in the late 1930s or something, they had people believing that the Earth was being invaded by Martians over the radio in America. Only in America, by the way. The rest of the world didn't know about it, but America thought they were being invaded and went and hid in their things because they believe what they heard on the radio, like we all believe what we see on Facebook or social media.
And is that what, when you see those movies when we're being invaded by these ugly thingies, like not humans, but they're shaped, got legs and arms and heads and evil looking things.
Or even sweet looking things like E.T. Phone Home.
Oh, E.T., he was cute.
Yeah.
He was cute.
But they come out of their minds. So, but what is the reality? We don't know. They could have no bodies at all. They could be silicon-based life forms. They don't have to be us and need oxygen and water and all those other things.
Well, yes. And the question asked earlier was, is there something out there? And I would say, yes, there's got to be something. And I always say this, it has to be more intelligent than us humans on Earth. And they're just watching us. Well, I don't know. I think they're watching us and looking at us and having a little bit of a laugh.
There's a thing called the Fermi paradox about why life hasn't visited us yet. Come up by a guy called Fermi in the 1950s, an astronomer. And it basically is because of the tyranny of distance. The nearest star to us, other than the sun's 150 million kilometers away, and it's the nearest star to us. The next nearest star to us is Alpha Centauri. Remember I talked about the kissing star, the brightest of the two pointer stars to the cross?
Yep.
The bottom one, so when you're looking, you can see it at night. You can go out there and look at it. There's a planet around one of the stars that's part of that system called Proxima. That's the nearest exoplanet, planet outside of our solar system of us. It's 4.5 light years away. So if we send a signal to it, a radio signal, it would take 4.5 years to get there and 4.5 years to come back. Right?
Right.
So this is the problem. But that star is about 40 trillion kilometers away from us, about 25,000 years with current day spacecraft. So unless these beings outside of our solar system, we've only been transmitting radio noise since the mid-1800s when Marconi discovered radio and that. Say from the Industrial Revolution, have we been putting up pollutants in the air? So when we're looking for life around other planets, we're looking for, using SETI, we're looking for that artificial radio signal. Or we're looking for biomarkers, things that are done by people making stuff, artificial substances in our atmosphere. So we're this tiny little planet, this tiny little solar system on the outer edge of this tiny little galaxy in the scheme of things. There's other creatures out there who may be more intelligent. How are they going to find us and how are we going to find them? It's called the tyranny of distance.
And it is distance, isn't it? I mean, it's not, yeah. But it's interesting. I mean, creates a curiosity of what possibilities there are in the world to be able to achieve, and they're endless when you think about it.
Like I said, next 25 years is going to be the golden age. And who knows what we're going to learn and discover in the next 25 years with all these, with the James Webb Telescope, with the Square Kilometre Array, the big radio telescope coming online, with either the 30-metre or the Giant Magellan 25-metre telescope coming online in Chile, and other numerous things that are happening, gravitational waves, all these things that are happening. What are we going to learn that we don't know now?
It's
exciting.
It's scary. It's exciting, scary.
But 1902, no one knew how to fly.
No, true.
1968, no one had landed on the moon.
Yeah.
Prior to 1957, no satellite had gone into space. Our parents' lifetime saw so many changes.
And we're seeing changes now.
We are.
If we're aware of
them. But our grandparents saw bigger changes.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
I mean, like if your grandparents were born at the early days of flight, right through to the liners that we have today, to Concorde, to planes that carry thousands of people from one side of the world to the other. In 1926, they still had sailing ships.
And that's the only way you can travel.
Now we have cruise liners
that
anyone can afford to go on.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating.
They are selling tickets. They sell tickets into space for the people who are rich enough.
Rich enough, yes. Yes. Well, I mean, there's a few on the bandwagon there now, aren't there? That
there are quite a few options, but I'm saying is, we've come a long way. So if you just go back to the Wright brothers, from the time of the Wright brothers to now, where you see Elon Musk launching his Starship with the idea of sending it to Mars. Our Thomas will be on the moon hopefully by 2026. The next manned mission to the moon. And in the 2030s, we may see people go to Mars. It's exciting. It's exciting to be a young person.
Yeah. Now, Donna, we're going to the end of the show. I wish we weren't, but anyway, that's the way it is. How can people get in contact with you if they want to have a conversation with you, or they want to
have a conversation, or they want to come to anything? Just Google Donna the Astronomer. I've got a web page. I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere.
She is
and I even have a mobile telephone, and I have a mobile phone number I even answer. And it's on all my socials as well. So, and I can tell it to you. So if people want to ask me some questions, or there's any other media out there want to ask me anything about anything, it's 0428 288 244.
Fantastic. It's
and my email it's easier just to email me at donna@donnatheastronomer.com.au, but that's so long to type. But go to my webpage, find me on social media, message me.
Yeah, just Google you and you'll find, Google her,
Google
and
me.
you'll find Donna the Astronomer.